My name's Sobhit. I'm a rising senior at Brown University. Whereas in the US, I have the flexibility to change what I want to study while I'm here.
Is the importance of extracurriculars in admissions, because at this point it's almost a necessity. So Is that true?
I would say applying to the US, definitely it's a necessity, because I've been told by a lot of counselors in India that when people apply from India, they're very much aware of this W curve that people have on their report cards.
No, the campus life at Brown is great. It's a very picturesque campus. It's very pretty. It's nice to walk around.
How is the change from Delhi to USA?
The US just has so much opportunity, and
at least A's and A stars are treated the same.
Welcome to Writers Mascot's first podcast. I am Piyush, and alongside me is Shyan, with a very special guest. Joining us live from USA, Sobhit Arora.
Sobhit, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Sobhit. I'm a rising senior at Brown University. I study political science and modern culture and media.
So, Sobhit, you said you're in Brown University. So, why would you choose Brown University and specifically USA instead of any other country like UK or Canada?
Right. So, I have a couple of reasons for that. I did think about applying to the UK when I was in 10th grade doing my GCSEs. But one thing that the USA offered me that the UK doesn't is that, the UK, if you apply for law or if you apply for physics or whatever, you can only study that when you're there for 3 years. Whereas in the US, I have the flexibility to change what I want to study while I'm here, which is also kind of why it's a 4-year program and not a 3-year program. So when I came to Brown, I came in wanting to do political science, but I changed my mind about wanting to do law. So I had the flexibility to do another major as well.
Right. And how was the admission process with Brown University? I mean, it's one of the top universities in USA. So how was it? Is it what you expected, or was it way different?
Right. I will say that another reason that I chose the US over the UK was that I'm a US citizen. So it was easier for me to apply for financial aid and for scholarships. But when it comes to, sorry, I don't know if that sound came on I'm going to turn that off. But when it comes to why I chose Brown, it was the best school that I got into. It was the best college that I got into. So it made it just an obvious choice. But the application process was kind of like most colleges when you apply to in the US. You have the common application, which is like a 600-word essay about yourself. Then you have some supplementary essays. So I think there were like 3 or 4 supplementary essays for Brown. And then I did my ACT and my high school grades. And Brown also, it's not required, but they recommend you take 2 SAT subject tests. So I did those as well. I did math level 2 and I did world history.
Right. And Shyan here also is planning to give SAT this October, I believe, right, Shyan?
Yeah, I was just making a decision between UK and US. So yeah, I was just all around looking at the flexibility of US and seeing if that was required or not.
So another one very big doubt I have in my mind is the importance of extracurriculars in admissions, because at this point it's almost a necessity. Extracurriculars, what I thought was, if you're not focused on academics or you have extra interests, you would focus on extracurriculars, but now it's like a necessity. So Is that true?
I would say applying to the US, definitely it's a necessity, because when you apply to a college in the US, they're really looking for a holistic applicant. They're not looking for someone who can just achieve good grades, but they're looking for someone who can provide value and insight outside of the classroom as well, just on a peer-to-peer basis. So when you've taken part in extracurriculars, really kind of, you in some ways you do, but in some ways you also don't. But you take what you learn from the classroom and apply it outside the classroom. It's not necessarily direct all the time, but there are skills that you pick up in the class that you can transfer other ways. but I think the UK is still more focused on grades. I mean, that's strictly because they have like strict cutoffs. Like if you want to go to Cambridge, you need 2 A stars and an A. It's like it's very clear that academics is important to them, and you can get by with doing solely academics, but not necessarily.
But for USA, it's
for the US, it's definitely something you have to do.
I mean, many of my friends I've started, they've just gone into grade 11 after their IGCSE results. So those who didn't perform well were focusing this summer vacation, like many websites, many charity work, they're all focusing on that. So I was like wondering, is it really necessary? Is it so much important? And for USA, as you say, so it is definitely. And what type of extracurriculars would have? Like some are doing extracurricular like charity work. I just got a friend. He was donating books to people in need, and then well, I did it for my interest, but many people have opened, they're sharing their stories, they're sharing their resources. So what would be more, impactful?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when it comes to extracurriculars, it's important to do what you like to do. Like extracurriculars are fun in my eyes because I enjoy to do them. When like in high school, like I did a lot of public speaking, a lot of debate, a lot of Model UN, and I did that because like I liked it. It wasn't because I was, if this will be good on my college application. And I think when you do it with the intention because you like it, like if you just pick up the guitar because you like to play the guitar and you get good at it, it's like in the grand scheme of things, it's like a great skill to have to know how to play the guitar. But in your high school period, it is just beneficial that it looks better on your college application if you kind of done.
There's a motive also behind it, so you put more heart into it, and not just for the resume, but your own.
And I feel like it when you apply to college, it really, like if something really means a lot to you, and it comes, you're doing it because you really like to do it or because you feel for it a lot or very passionately, like I think that comes across in your application just on the basis of how you write about it and how that extracurricular has impacted you. Whereas if you're kind of like doing something just because, this is going to look good on my application per se, while it may look good like numerically and like when you quantify it, I think when you actually have to qualify and what that meant to you, it's a lot harder to do that because it's not as, it didn't mean as much.
There's no real motive behind it. So what's the point?
Yeah. And that's right. We shouldn't force subjects which you don't want to take as such in A levels. Yeah, since there's a lot of pressure to cover this syllabus and very holistic. It's a very large syllabus, it's a vast syllabus, and it goes into depth. So whatever subject you have interest in, you should pick that up rather than subjects which you're uninterested in. Yeah. Because at the end, you don't get a grade.
I agree. Like in my IGCSEs, I remember like I hated science. I do not like science. And I remember in 9th grade when we had the choice to like pick our subjects, I did not want to do chemistry. I did not want to do bio. I thought about doing physics for a bit. And then I said, why am I doing this to myself? And I didn't do it. And I ended up taking subjects like accounting, business studies, econ, history. And, not to say that like I am going to be an accountant now, but I'm very happy that I chose those subjects and dove into that field rather than science. But in retrospect, I do wish that I took at least one science class in my GCSEs because I feel like I don't know much when it comes to science on like a basic like principles and stuff like that. But hindsight is always
but when you choose subjects when you don't have interest in them, I feel like especially with the subject like difficulty going from IGCSE and AS levels, it's so big. So even right now there's online classes and it's my opinion, but it's way more exhausting than normal classes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I will say that the jump between IGCSE and A levels is a lot harder. So for example, like my example that I wish I took science in IGCSEs, I do wish I took it then. However, I'm really happy that like I wouldn't suggest like push yourself to do it at the A level because if you're not interested and you're not keeping up with the class, it becomes very hard to manage. But
I've seen my friends struggling with it, and especially mental illness. Mental pressure increases so much, and as I said, extracurriculars, they're all focusing on extracurriculars, and this huge jump that adjusting to this, the whole thing, it's hurting our brains.
Yeah.
So obviously we shall choose
taking up subject which would like automatically drive attention from interested subjects to other subjects, which other subjects may also take a fall in that respect, because you have to give force attention to a subject which you don't like.
Right.
In that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Sobhit, you said you're studying political sciences, right?
Yes.
So I'm just speaking out of my mind. I believe there's a misconception that in India, people who take humanities, or for example political science, they don't have much job opportunities.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Like, I mean,
it's obviously it's 100%. Either engineer or doctor.
Right. So like, I mean, if you graduate with an engineering degree or a computer science degree, are you likely to be hired easily and get paid more? Yes. Like, if you have a CS degree, you are definitely going to have better job opportunities because you're going to make more money. And it's just a very like in demand skill. It's a very niche, it's like a very valuable skill to have in today's day and age. But like I personally, I took a CS class at Brown and I couldn't do it. Like I failed the class. It was just like I just could not, I didn't have it in me to like sit behind a computer and like rack my brain. It just wasn't me. So I feel like, like, yes, like that may be true, but it doesn't mean that you cannot be successful with like a political science degree. I feel like success doesn't necessarily equate to like how much money you make, even though from background, I agree. But like if you come from like a background, like a lower socially or income class background, that it may be very important to, to solidify a good amount of income, and that is totally understandable. But I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be able to like pursue what I like to pursue. My parents are very supportive about it. But I think you can be successful with the political science degree. I know at Brown, a third of the students who's major in political science, they apply to law school. They go to law school. But a lot of the people who take political science as a concentration or a major, they end up like they want to enter like the public. They want to enter obviously, the political sphere. They want to be consultants. But it's generally, I did it with the intention of going to law school, but then I kept it rather than doing another major because I wanted to keep that like foundation of, knowledge and awareness of, how to see politics in our world.
It's all about priorities. If you want to prioritize money, then you should go for the one. And if you want, but if you focus on that, eventually it wears you down. It's not in your interest. And once you're successful or you reach a point where you can't, go much further. And at that point, I believe people get exhausted and then they regret that they didn't follow their passion, but they followed money. But obviously, as you said, it's about priorities. If you're from a weaker economical background, obviously money is much important. But yeah, I got what you said. One last thing I want to clarify. I just got my IGCSE results, so that's why I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, for sure.
Does it matter? Does it matter?
For what? For where to apply?
For UK was USA more like towards the US. I have a feeling that they like lower grades also matter more than that, but like for UK are important, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't speak much to the UK. I can say about the US that so I've been told by a lot of counselors in India that when people apply from India, they're very much aware of this W curve that people have on their report cards. That ninth grade, when you do the in-class tests and the final exams that are created by the school, they're generally harder on purpose so that when the actual board exam comes, you do well. So I think colleges are well aware of the fact that like you'll get like 70% average in ninth grade, but then in 10th grade somehow you'll have like an 85 or like a 90% average. So I mean, GCSEs are definitely important when you apply to the US. I think it's like a stamp from the University of Cambridge that shows like what you're good at, what you're not good at. However, one thing that I'm not 100% sure about this, but I do think that A's and A stars are treated the same by U.S. universities. I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that A's and A stars ended up being treated as just A's. Like it's just it doesn't matter. So if you had like 8 A's or 7 A stars and 1 A, you essentially had the same thing. Like yes, they'll look at your percentile, but at the end of the day, like the letter grade is a very quick way to see like how someone stands.
I've seen people regretting like they like 6 A stars and 1 A, and they'd be like, come on, man.
No.
Missed it by that much.
I understand. I feel like in high school as well, like at least our high school, it's very much like there's a lot of pressure put on academics. Like definitely like academics is seen to be very important. Like the way like IGCSE is like, and when you're in 10th grade, IGCSE is like the most important thing.
Yeah,
life.
it's
like,
high.
Like everyone, your family's telling you, your teachers at school, anywhere environment, like from your peer group, like anyone will always tell you that like this is the most important thing. If you do well in this, then this is the next step to like for you to be successful. That's how everyone always says it. And they are important. Like it's important to do well in your tests, but I mean it's not the end of the world. And I think that's what's important to keep in mind.
Is obviously A levels and AS levels grade would be considered better, right? Like better as in higher than IGCSE. So we have a chance to prove ourselves again.
Right, no, for sure. I feel like even if you didn't do that well in your IGCSEs, and if you're able to demonstrate that you did better in your AS levels and your A levels, like colleges see that like okay, the student has improved
progression,
over time. Whereas like it would be worse if your slope was downwards rather than upwards. If you were like an A-star student in 9th grade and then by the 12th grade you're barely passing, like that's definitely a lot worse than if you started off really worse and ended up really well.
Right. And how about SATs? Like if for example, let's just take a hypothetical situation. I believe Shyan is giving his SATs right now. Shyan, when are you giving it? October, I believe.
Oh yeah, I think.
Yeah, October. So yes, Shyan.
What would be your advice to whether to take the SATs and extracurriculars in 11th or like 12th? Since 12th we have the pressure of more A-level boards and studying subjects. So when would you give time to such extracurricular SAT exam?
It's definitely tricky. I took the SAT twice. I don't remember. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember the 2 times I took it, but I remember the first time I took it. My score wasn't that great, and I had to take it again. And it's just something that you like. You're just gonna have to like chalk out time for it. It's an important test. Like as much as people say that they look at other things on your application, that's true. They do look at other things on your application, but if you want to be able to, it's a standardized test because like, they need some way to check if you're all right. And as much as the SAT is like a bogus test, and there are many test optional schools, like NYU is a test optional school. You don't have to take the SAT. I know a lot of schools this year because of COVID, like the SAT isn't like a requirement. Yeah. So I think for Brown as well, that the SAT is not a requirement this year. If you do it, great. But balancing it, just like you,
it's managing time. It's very hard now.
Schools become tougher and tougher, I think, because they expect more and more out of high school students with every year. And it's tough, but you just have to keep up and you have to be diligent.
Yeah, managing time is like the highest priority right now. Sorry.
I believe has its own campus. How's the experience there?
No, the campus life at Brown is great. It's a very picturesque campus. It's very pretty. It's nice to walk around. I'm just truly grateful to be here. I've met some of my closest friends here. And yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with the size of the campus as well as the city, because Providence, it's in Providence, but not like downtown. It's up on the hill, and Providence isn't that big either. So it's nice to be here for 4 years because it's not big enough where you feel like you're already in the real world. Like if you go to NYU, and it's not small enough where, you know, there's nothing to do other than the campus. Like there's nothing around the college. So it's nice. It's like a nice middle ground where, you know, I can be on campus and there are nice things I can do. It's like there are beautiful parks, bike paths and stuff like that. So yeah, truly. What'd you say?
Didn't meet your expectations.
I didn't have any expectations coming into college, but if I had any, I can tell you it would have exceeded them.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear, you know, going outside and, you know, living in a campus is missing, you know, being homesick, missing my family, missing my home, missing India where I live. So was that a problem in my experience?
Like I wouldn't say I'm definitely homesick sometimes. Like I haven't been home since January. I think this is the longest since I've come to Brown that I've actually not been back to Delhi, because I usually come back in the summer or the winter break. So it's been especially long this time. You get used to it. You realize there's so much here for you. You know, when you're at college, you have so much independence that you don't have at home. But I would say I'm homesick. I miss seeing my friends from high school. It's crazy to think that I will never go to high school again. It's like once you graduate high school, I feel like that, like, it doesn't really hit you that you're never going to go to high school again. But you know, when you come back as an alum, like to like the alumni meet or something like that, it hits you. It's weird. But I definitely am homesick. I definitely miss my parents. That's probably the biggest thing. I end up missing my parents the most. But you know, you get used to it. Life goes on, and you know, we're fortunate enough to have like this communication. Like 20 years ago, they didn't have this stuff, so you know, we're lucky to have this.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just sad, you know, because we have to make this sacrifice to pursue our interests, and mostly we have, but many people tend to stay.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just something that you have to come to terms with. You'll learn to accept as it goes on. It never gets like easier, but get more.
You get used to it, right? It's
Every time it gets,
you know, financially also, and taking care of yourself. All of it comes to you slowly, I believe, and that's what my father said when he moved to Delhi. But yes, I think I have no more questions. Shyan, would you like to say something? Or
how was the change from Delhi to USA? Delhi being a very packed city, but like, how was it compared to USA?
Yeah, I mean, I love Delhi. I moved to Delhi when I was 12 because I was born in the U.S. But I know I those 8 years that I grew up in Delhi, I think were some of the best times that I've had. I mean, I met some of the coolest people. I had experiences that I never really thought I would have in my life. So it's just a completely different world. Like being in Delhi versus being at college is just a completely different world. I've been asked this question, like, which is better, which is worse, since I was like a kid. Like, do I like India more? Do I like the U.S. more? And you know, they both have their pros and cons. You know, in Delhi, the air is really bad, so it's hard to breathe. But you know, everything about your people comes from there. You know, your family, your culture, everything about that, and it really does feel like home when I'm there. But the U.S. just has so much opportunity, and at least in what I want to do, has so much opportunity, and you know, I've met such a wide range of people, which is something that I really also appreciate. But you know, like they're just both great places. Like I would never pick one over the other. I'd be more than happy to live in either of the places.
It's very subjective at its core. Yeah,
it's definitely subjective. Yeah,
I'm making the choice between a city lifestyle in the London or like campus lifestyle in the UK, campus lifestyle in the US. So that's what about deciding between the two.
That's tough. That's definitely a personal choice as well. Like, so just like how I said, like how I think Brown is like the right size and Providence is not too big. I really like that because, you know, I don't think at any other point in my life would have decided to like live in Providence. Whereas like big cities, when you're like in your 20s, early 30s, like, you know, you're very likely to live in like Mumbai, Delhi, LA, New York, London. But like I mean, it's truly, London is like, for example, like I visited Predeep. I think he also did this. Like I visited Predeep in London, and we had a great time. Like I can totally see why you would love to live in a city, because you really claim a city. That city becomes yours at a younger age. But I feel like it's just, to be in a campus environment is a completely unique experience. So I don't know. It's really to each their own. Again, it's subjective. Like there are people who want to go to completely isolated campuses with nothing around, and be in nature. I mean, so again, it's really, you really should introspect when you're applying to colleges and see kind of what you like.
Lifestyle there.
Yeah, just kind of the lifestyle you should expect for 4 years. That's probably a big thing to consider.
Yeah,
Exploring
sorry, Shyan. These are often things which people don't take in account while applying.
Yeah.
They just see if it's a big name and if it's there in the top 10 or something, and they just apply. These are important things which they should consider, because eventually it will hit you. Like if you're not liking the place where you're staying, how can you focus on your studies?
Even things like the weather. Like I mean, Brown's in the Northeast, and in the wintertime, like the sun sets at 4 p.m. Like it gets dark at 4 p.m. and it's very cold. Like you're not going to be outside at all. And a lot of kids who come from like tropical areas, who come from like Southeast Asia and like the south of the US, or just anywhere that's like generally like sunny and nice and hot, like a lot of those kids go through what seasonal depression. Like it really hits them, and I think it's something that's pretty tough to navigate. But it's like the weather, even something that you might think like the weather is just like not a big deal, it's definitely a big deal to some people. And like if you go to school in LA, like you're gonna have beautiful weather year round. But if you come to school in the Northeast, like summer will be nice, the early of the fall semester will be nice, the end of the spring semester will be nice, but late fall to early spring is going to be very cold and dark, and you'll see some snow. Like there'll be snow sometimes, and it'll be beautiful, but that's just something that it's important to consider. Don't overlook that, I would say.
All this is important. Does it really happen over time as you continue to stay there?
What
like
happens?
Get used to? Do you get accustomed to some climate?
Yeah,
the life.
No, for sure. Yeah, you get like the first year is really just like you're learning the ropes. You're knowing how things work here. You're getting used to things. Like for example, like the first time I went outside in Brown when it was raining, I took my umbrella, and then I realized that like the umbrella wasn't enough because it was like a storm. It was like a hurricane kind of, and well, they were just like a crazy windstorm, and like winds were like 30 miles an hour, and I was just being pulled by my umbrella. And then you learn that you shouldn't have an umbrella. You should just wear a raincoat so that you're not wet, rather than like holding an umbrella. So you definitely learn. But yeah.
The sighting adventure.
Yeah,
Exciting one.
For sure.
That's nice. So with that, then another note, like what advice would you give to a student applying to universities?
What advice would I give? Apply something. Yeah, I mean, like as much as you may want to go to a top school like Harvard, Stanford, MIT, I mean, those ambitions are great. Just make sure that like you think, like talk to people who have go to those schools. Try and find people who like go there. Find people who can connect you, go there, and like speak to them. Try and figure out what it's like to actually be there. I didn't.
Yeah. It's
get
important.
Perspective, because for sure.
I mean, we all can learn from experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what Brown was going to be like at all. I'm very lucky that I loved it. Like I had no idea. I had no expectation. So I am very lucky that I loved it. But there's some people who go to college without not knowing anything about it, and then they just hate it. So I would really say, like, as much as you do your research on like their programs and academics and stuff like that, like try and contact students and try and find people
alumni like
that actually study there, and then
Thank you.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Sobhit, for taking your time and giving us advice. So to all the people who are trying to go into Brown, It's a very nice university, as Sobhit said. For him, not most
And
probably for you also, but you should get into touch with someone from the college you're applying. That is very important. And with that note, I believe we can end our podcast. Thank you again, Sobhit, for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for upcoming podcasts.